So I just want to go over the traffic flow here in my network between the 14 network and the 36 network. So the way that the traffic flow works, if we work backwards, as in we're building the control plane between R6 and R4. So we start the 36 network and build backwards. So we start all the way from the top there where we talk about the MPLS and how that works. What happens on R6 is he creates its own label for the 36 network. If I do a show MPLS forwarding table, we'll see that he's created a label that says, created a local tag or label as 609, and that means any traffic that reaches R6 with the label of 609, that R6 then recognizes that as the traffic is destined to the 36 network. So what that means in terms of MPLS is that that will be used as the bottom of stack label when other provider edge routers want to send traffic to the 36 network. So for example, on R4, that would then be used as the bottom of stack label when we send any piece of information to the 36 network. So if we do, I'm just going to check what VRF it's in a sec. We do a show IP, BGP, VPN v4, VRF, 36.36.36.0. Oops, I put too many. So we go to, if we put this here, we'll see the VPN v4 route for the 36 network on R4. So that says the next hop is going to be 101.101.101.101, and the bottom stack label there is to use is 609. And we've been told that from R6, and we learned it via the VPN v4 routing table there. So that says when you want to reach the 36 network, R6 says when you want to reach the 36 network, use the label 609. And that will obviously be the bottom of the stack label because that is where the network's connected to. That's the very last label that we've taken off before we actually want to use IP routing. What we then need to do is find out what label we need to use to speak to R7 to send that traffic via MPLS to get it to the 36 network. So here we can also see the next hop is 101. Let me just double check. Yep. So it says the best is number 1 here. So we then need to find out what label to use. What label have we been told by R7 through LDP to reach the 101 network? If we hop over to R7, well, we can do this either way. We can go on R4 and do a show MPLS forwarding table, and we can see that we've been told to use the tag of 70. I'm doing this right now. 702. So that says, okay, so we have 609 on the bottom. That tells R6 to reach the 36 network. How do we get there? We need to go via 101.101.101.101. What label have we been told via LDP from R7 to reach the 101.101.101.101 next hop? And we can see here we've been told that the outgoing tag is 702. So we need to send an MPLS packet with the bottom of stack label of 609 and the top of stack label here will be 702. We then need to send, where do we send that MPLS traffic? So that then goes to the next hop. You can see here the next hop is 47.47.47.7, which is then R7. So just to recap, that's on the MPLS packet there we have 609 on the bottom of stack, 702 on the top of stack, and we then send that MPLS packet to the 47.47.47.7 network. You can also see that from the show IPsef. Should be able to see that from the IPsef table as well. Yeah, so the IPsef then says for the 47 network we need to go via fast Ethernet 00, which is exactly what that is. The traffic hits R7. We need to know exactly what we need to do with it. So it says when we've got an incoming tag of 702, what we've done here when we created a binding, we said to reach this, we advertised to the other routers. So this is how R4 learned about the route 101. So it said use 702 when you want to speak to 101. So that's how R4 learned what label to use. So on R7 then, what does it do once it receives traffic for that network, it pops it off. So the outgoing tag here, we've been told to pop that tag off. So we then just expose the next MPLS header underneath, which would be sorry, the next MPLS label underneath, which would then be the bottom stack label, which would be 609, and that would then be sent to 67, 67, 67.6. So we send the MPLS packet to 67.6. And we've taken off the 702 label here and just left the 609 label for R6 to deal with, and then R6 knows how to deal with that because of it says, okay, so for 609, that's our network here. There's no next hop. It's just we are connected, and that's how the traffic flow works in MPLS. It's a little bit hard to envision sometimes, so an example, real life example, does sometimes help. Another tip what I want to give as well, which I made. I don't know if you guys make it. So just for the sake of simplicity here, I'm just going to say, make sure you create your IBGP connection between your provider edge peers. Make sure that you create that using your update source loopback or whatever loopback you want to use. The reason is if you don't and you use the connected interface here, like I did when I originally set this up by accident, what happens is when traffic on R4 wants to speak to the 36 network, it learns that okay, the BGP peer comes up, it tells it, okay, we get the VPN v4 route saying, okay, we need to get to the 36 network, what label do we use? We get told it's 609 like we were before. And then what happens next is that you say, where do we send this traffic to as the next hop? So we find that the neighbor IP, instead of being 101.101.101.101, which is the loopback on R6 here, instead of it being 101.101.101.101, it's actually the 67.6 network. So in R4, when we did the show IP BGP VPN v4 blah 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 blah, that would be 67.6. And then when we check the MPLS forwarding table, what happens is we get told that it's an implicit null from R7. So we don't actually send a label with it on top of the 609 label to R7. So when we did it when it was working, the next hop was 101.101.101, and we tagged it with 702 to get it to R7. When we use the physical interface, R7 says that network is directly connected. So therefore, we don't need to put a label on if we know how to get to it just there. The problem with that is then when this sends it with just the only label in the stack is 609, R7 then goes, okay, well, I'm just going to pop that label off. Okay, where do we send it? And what happens when he takes that label off is the IP header is exposed then, because we didn't have two labels in the stack, we just had one. And the destination is 36, 36, 36, 36. R7 has no idea where that is because he's not involved in the VPN or the BGP there. It's just pure MPLS on the backbone, so he has no idea how to reach the 36 network. So yeah, when you create your IBGP pairs for your provider edge routers, make sure that you use the loopback interface, so that an extra tag or label, if you like, is put on, so that R7 then does send, traffic then is sent from R4 to R7 in this network with a label on it, and that then enables the bottom of stack label to stay intact once it reaches across to R6. Yeah, definitely worth noting.